discuss the genetics of cancer. So, if I was to say to you, what is cancer? I'm sure you would give me the classic answer, uncontrolled cell division. But what exactly does that mean? So, we know that normally cells go through mitosis to make more copies of themselves, and they do it in a regulated manner. Well, in cancer, it's unregulated because the cell has found out a way to just say go, 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 and they don't worry about meeting certain criteria. Then I want you to take away from this lesson that cancer is a genetic disease. So cancer, and what I mean by that is cancer is based on a series of mutations in our DNA, okay? So mutated DNA, it acquires all these various mutations over time. So at its core, cancer is a genetic disease, and those mutations cause uncontrolled cell division. There has been over 100 types of cancer already described, and this can occur in just about any tissue type that we have. There's cancer of the eyes, cancer of the bone, okay? Cancer of the skin. The cancers are named for the location where they begin, and if it's a solid tumor, they usually have the suffix "oma." So here we have some examples like a melanoma, ductal carcinoma in situ, hepatocellular carcinoma, and chondrosarcoma. Melanoma, I'm sure you'll all tell me, oh, that's skin cancer. Ductal carcinoma in situ is breast cancer. Hepato, liver, so that's the prefix for liver, and chondro, bone, also the prefix for bone. So for everyone who has aspirations in medical school, these are some things you will learn in a medical terminology class. And then cancer in the blood is usually referred to as different leukemias. So even though cancer is a diverse group of diseases, there are still some commonalities between them. So one being they are clonal. So here we have a normal cell and it divided. Well, one of those cells acquired mutations that gave it an advantage for cell division. As it keeps replicating, this is going to be our cancer. So here now you see a mass of cells. And at the beginning, cancer is just that, this mass of cells. So we know about the rapid and uncontrolled cell division. The other thing is this loss of contact inhibition. So this sounds just what it says. Stop when I feel things, right? So when researchers have looked at cancer in a petri dish, they noticed that it will grow up and out of this petri dish, whereas normal cells would not. Normal cells have a way of feeling to see how close they are to their neighbor and if there's any more space in their area, and if it's not, they stop dividing. Well, cancer cells, as you can see here, they don't care what's going on with their neighbor. They're just going to grow up and out and keep growing, growing, growing because that's their only mission, to grow as much as they can. So some more characteristics is this less differentiated. So if you look at these cancer cells under a microscope, you'll see that they look different than their neighbors. You'll see this rounder shape and this larger nuclei. The reason for this larger nuclei is to accommodate this abnormal number of chromosomes. So this is a karyotype, and you should say, hey, in a normal karyotype, you have 2 copies of each chromosome. Well, here you have as many as 6 of chromosome 1 and 4 of chromosome 12. You'll also notice they look different, right? So these chromosomes have lots and lots of translocations going on, okay? So to accommodate this increase in number, you have to have an increase in size of the nucleus. Another characteristic is metastasis. So what is that? That's when cancer breaks from its original location and sets up shop somewhere else. This is a hallmark of being cancer, is metastasis and invasion. So invasion is when a tumor or cancer cells invade at the location they are. So they start to go where the normal cells are. Metastasis is they break away from here and go somewhere else. So if a person has breast cancer, so they have a mass in their breast. They can also have breast cancer in the liver if that cell travels through the blood or lymph system, gets to the liver, and starts to form a tumor there. Now, another neat characteristic of cancer is this angiogenesis. So cancer has the ability to cause blood vessels to grow inside, to vascularize it so that it can still survive. So We know we have capillaries that are all throughout the body because our normal blood vessels only have a defined region to go into. Well, where those like veins and arteries can't reach, we have capillaries because it helps us with the surface area around the body. Well, after a tumor reaches such a large size, if it was no longer getting the blood it needed, it would ultimately go ahead and die because it's not having gas exchange. Well, to circumvent that, cancer is able to cause blood vessels to grow where it needs it. Okay? So now, if we step back and look at the genetics again, and we say, hey, cancer is a genetic disease, and we know this because it has all of these mutations. Well, guess what? When we talk about genetics, you're usually thinking about inheritance, right? Well, only about 5 to 10% of all cancer is inherited. So that means the 90 to 95% that's out there has to be caused from something else. Well, what is that something else? A large majority of cancer is caused by mutations. And how do you get mutations? You should be able to answer this like that because we've been talking about how are mutations acquired, right? So one, spontaneous and induced, or inside and outside. Well, 80% of all cancers are caused by outside influences, these carcinogens, these type of things that's in the environment that causes cancer or causes mutations at a large rate. Those mutations then increase the ability of a cell to proliferate. There's that uncontrolled cell division again. They also decrease the ability of a cell to die. So programmed cell death is called apoptosis. You can think of this like cell suicide. And what happens is once the cell realizes like, oh my gosh, I'm so messed up, I need to go ahead and apoptose so I don't mess up the tissue or organ or organism, so it goes ahead and apoptose. Well, cancer turns that off. So now you have these mutations and you're not able to apoptose, so you have to pass them on. And so it also increases the mutation rate in the cell. So I keep dividing, I don't die, I keep mutating. That makes a happy cancer cell. So remember our cell cycle, and remember how there were these checkpoints that made sure everything was okay. So is my DNA fine? Is my DNA replicated correctly? Is that new DNA replicated right? Do I have everything I need for mitosis? Cancer has done away with these checkpoints. So there is no inspection of the DNA. So all those mutations are going to be passed on here. So one way it does cancer evade cell cycle is by getting rid of those checkpoints. Now, we talked about mitosis. We talked about how those checkpoints have the same purpose. Prevent division of damaged cells, prevent division of cells that we don't need to grow anymore. Cancer obliterates these checkpoints, so cells that shouldn't divide are able to divide, be it because we don't need them anymore or because they're damaged. It doesn't matter. They're able to keep dividing. And so when those checkpoints fail, you get cancer, you get uncontrolled cell division. But what you get first is a mass of cells. Now what that mass of cells is could be benign. So if you have a contained mass of cells that just sits there and grows into a tumor, but it doesn't invade other tissues, it's benign. If that cell invades neighboring tissues and break off and metastasize, it's considered malignant, and that's when you say, yes, this person has cancer. Those genes that we talked about that tend to be mutated in cancer are proto-oncogenes, tumor suppressor genes, and DNA repair genes. And each of these will be discussed in further lectures. So, any questions, comments, or concerns, write them down, bring them to class, and we'll talk about it.